All right, so now let's talk about how to prioritize your seemingly impossible workload and focus on the few things that will drive the best returns for you and your customers while not wasting time reinventing the wheel or chasing projects that aren't relevant. If you're new to the organization, this will cut your learning curve by more than 75%. You'll immediately be able to see gaps in your organization that would have taken months to identify before. And if your company has just started to grow, this process will identify the areas that aren't going to scale with that growth. Now, eventually, you might find them on your own, but you'll find them because they've broken down and had a negative impact on customers. As a leader over customer success, your responsibilities are almost endless, and it's easy to become overwhelmed with the tactical day-to-day that consumes your life. It's really hard to know if you're focusing on all the things that need to be focused on, and new fires keep popping up, surprising everyone. Once you put one out, another one flares up. Does it seem like you end every day with more work than when you started? And are you finding that many of your priorities are getting swallowed up by the daily grind, and it's hard enough to solve the day-to-day issues, let alone implement plans for the future? Do you keep running into roadblocks? Everyone wants to help, but there just seems to be one complication after another, and it's almost impossible to get something implemented. This happens for a specific reason that we're going to talk about in this video. I'm going to show you how you can get past that. And as you probably know, there's no place to go for a checklist of things to do that are customized specifically for your company. And you spend a lot of time developing solutions without ever knowing if they're complete or if there's a better way. The struggle to organize this amount of complexity is real. I've seen it over and over again. The good news is there is a better way. I'm going to show you a few critical steps that you need to do to be successful that come from working with dozens of leaders in your situation. Now, you can do this work on your own, and we'll talk about that in a minute. Or you can cut the time to effectiveness by several months by following a process called the Predictive Customer Behavior Index. I'm going to show you how you can get off that hamster wheel. But first, a quick introduction to me. This video isn't about me, but you should probably know who I am. My name is Dan Hazing, and I've been in process management for over 20 years, implementing Six Sigma process improvement projects and managing large international contact centers. I then moved into SaaS software and spent a fair amount of time managing products, implementing them globally, as well as developing customer success operations for large and small companies. I kept seeing a real gap in the marketplace around customer success, and the size of the company didn't seem to matter. I developed the Predictive Customer Behavior Index to measure and improve a company's ability to proactively service their customers, specifically tailored to the size and growth trajectory of the company. The process has proven to be incredibly effective for new leaders that need to get up to speed fast on what's really happening in their organization and develop a plan to close the gaps. It's also a huge help to existing leaders whose companies started to scale their operation. If you need hard customer data, keep listening to this video because I'm going to show you how to identify, prioritize, and close those gaps. Now, rather than me just telling you about the process, let me share a quick story about Kayla and the CEO. If you're looking to do this yourself, do me a favor. When I show metrics in the story, pause the video and write down which ones you produced today. We'll come back to that at the end. This will help you identify how much work there is to do and who should be doing the work. Now, Kayla was the head of customer success at a SaaS B2B company I recently worked with. Now, she was great with customers. She knew her business and she knew customer success, but she wasn't a process expert and she didn't recognize it when her company had outgrown the way they managed customer success. Now, their CEO invested aggressively in sales and marketing, and this is pretty common. They invested in lead generation and the sales process. They did keyword buys. They purchased a platform to manage their different channel campaigns. They hired a consultant to streamline the sales process. They even hired a Salesforce analyst to identify where leads were dropping out of the sales funnel. All this investment in infrastructure and data for the sales team started to pay off, and business was booming. Okay, quick side note. Many leaders in customer success think their CEO and CFO's job is to reduce costs and save money. How many times have we all heard it? It's not in the budget, right? So most customer success leaders are afraid to approach their senior leaders with anything that costs money. Now, the truth is, as evidenced by all the spending I just listed, the CEO's job is not to save money. It's actually to spend money. They just need to get a return for the money they spend. If they say no to something, it's because they don't understand the return they'll get for the money they spent. It's your job to measure and improve the return from your department as quickly and as efficiently as you can. Keep in mind, returns aren't always monetary, but you're spending money today. A common misconception when people are brought into a new role is that they need to do this all on their own. It is not your job to do this all on your own. So often new people look at getting help as a weakness. It's actually a strength and a sign of professional maturity when you identify the right help that will get you the right return fast. And your CEO will see it that way if it's positioned as part of a broader strategic plan. Now, sales in this example isn't doing it all by themselves, and it's probably the same in your company today. So this brings us to self-help tip number one. Your job is not to save money. Your job is to get a return on the money that you spend. And there's no better time to do this when you're new to the company or there's been a major change at your organization. The question is, what does that return look like today? And what should it look like? Are you able to measure the return on customer success? And if so, is it improving? If the answer is, I don't really know, or any combination of words that mean, I don't really know, then this is a very good place to focus. All right, now back to our story. So where was customer success in all of this? The CEO just invested a boatload of money in sales and the company was growing. They were seeing a return. Kayla and her team were still focused on solving customer problems, one customer at a time. Now they were good at it, but they couldn't show this to the rest of the company because they didn't have credible metrics. Her team had grown a little, but only after a few hard-fought battles with the CEO to add staff. Remember, these guys were in growth mode, but they were bogged down in the hamster wheel created by the tactical day-to-day customer problems. Customer success was being sidelined. And her solution to managing more customers was adding more people. And that was never going to scale with the organization. She didn't have a staffing plan that was tied to the revenue forecast or that was agreed to by the finance team. So here's self-help tip number two. If you don't have a process that defines when and how many people to hire, you are fighting an uphill battle that you cannot win without hard data. Now, her model was never going to scale to match the company's growth, and it was just a matter of time before the wheels came off and serious damage was done. The CEO was concerned, and Kayla's career was not only stalled out, but in danger of being cut short altogether. What was missing was a broader strategic view of the customer and the actual data needed to influence decisions made at the executive level that impacted the company and its customers. Now, this is what it means to become the primary customer advocate for your company. No one told Kayla that this is what she needed to do, and no one would have. Now, in many cases, it would have been too late for Kayla as the company had already outgrown her ability to manage the customer success team, and there was no one to help her step by step through the process. But fortunately for her, it didn't end that way. Now, this situation is the same for new employees just coming into a new role. You only have a certain amount of time to get up to speed. So as you look at the results, compare them to the data you're able to share today. You might be in the same situation as Kayla and just not know it. Now, in Kayla's case, we reviewed the organization using the Predictive Customer Behavior Index and identified a comprehensive list of gaps the organization was facing based on their new size. And this is true for all sizes of companies, by the way. Now, this is an important exercise that I'd like you to think about. Put yourself in Kayla's position as I talk about her results. Can you present this data to your company today? And if so, is your company confident in the data? And have you seen them take actions on it? Now, during the first quarter, Kayla was able to articulate specific customer risks to revenue backed up by hard data. This wasn't someone's opinion from some general feedback that they had gotten the other day. These were facts, and she had a list of customers under each risk type to back them up. The actions she took set records at the company. Retained revenue was 97% for the quarter. CSAT spiked to 93%, and NPS for managed accounts was a plus 73, unheard of. She blew away the upsell goal and literally went from worst to first in employee engagement. The department was actively scaling through automation and even had a staffing plan tied to customer sales. So as sales increased, they were able to add more staff or invest in more automation. Was everything solved? Of course not. But the team finally understood the universal problems they had and were able to prioritize, narrowing their focus on the ones that would get them the biggest returns first. Now, remember when I said to write down the metrics? Take a look here and jot down the specific metrics you report on and how credible they are. Now, if you don't report on these today, how difficult would it be for you to get them? If you don't know if they're credible or not, think back to the actions your company has taken based on the data you provided. If you're new, ask around. If the data customer success provides isn't causing the company to take action, then it isn't credible. Now, how would it feel to be able to present this type of information to your company and get them the insights on exactly why customers are at risk and what to do about it? Because that's the best part of this example. I call them customer advocacy outcomes, and they really were incredible. The product team was working on 5 of the 6 product gaps. Now, these have been around forever, but they never made it on the list. Now they had specific customer revenue tied to the risk, as well as specific customers to capture the business requirements. These actions took place specifically because of the customer success reporting. They were now presenting credible customer data that was actionable. No one asked for this. They were pushing it to the company because they now understood it was what their company needed to take action on behalf of the customer. And one item I'm particularly proud of, and remember when I was talking about customer success being sidelined? This wasn't something that was explicitly stated. It just happened organically. Customer success moved up in the order and started presenting first in the company-wide meeting. This was because of the value of the information they were now providing. They were being prioritized, and this is the exact opposite of being marginalized. No one specifically stated this, but it was definitely a cause and effect of implementing the recommendations we made. Now, I'm going long here, but if you're still listening, it's because you recognize some of these challenges and probably need some help fixing. Now, these are the categories we cover in our process. We not only evaluate how effectively these are being done, but if you don't have them, we'll design the process and outline how to implement them if it's relevant to the size and growth objectives of your organization. Now, not all of these apply to everyone, but we'll tell you if they do apply or at what point in the future you should consider them. We'll also show you how you can effectively implement them when and if the time comes. As the new leader, this is the comprehensive information that you need to make lasting change at your organization. And you can have the confidence to know that you're following a proven process that has already worked for dozens of leaders in your situation. Now, if you're looking to do this by yourself, take a look at the notes you took on the metrics we identified. Now pause the video and look at each of these categories. If you have a process or policy around each one of these items, not in your head, one that's written out, write down your gaps. Take as much time as you need. I'll be here when you get back. Okay, some of you are back and some of you never left, but be honest with yourself. Did you make an excuse for the ones you don't have defined? Well, we don't have a CRM, or our business is a little bit different, or you don't know my CEO. That's just you you're talking to here. There's no judgment. But if you made one or more of those excuses, you owe it to your company and your career to take a look at the Predictive Customer Behavior Index, because chances are that same excuse will become a roadblock at your company, and you might need an outside perspective to change it. Here's self-help tip number 3. Identify your own gaps and write down your excuses. Then play the game of what if. What if you had to do it anyway? How would you account for or eliminate that excuse? Get creative and have fun. You can also use this list as a checklist and develop some of the policy or standards for each one you think is relevant. In the case of the Predictive Customer Behavior Index, I have over 200 questions that I asked across several different levels of the organization and compare them to over 150 written standards that are indexed specifically for the size and growth trajectory of your company. We review dozens of documents, systems, and processes, and we evaluate your live data. This assessment literally goes from mission, vision, values, employee job descriptions to customer life cycles, all the way through your technology. It's very comprehensive and it's fast. In about 3 weeks, you'll have your entire customer success process mapped and a clear understanding of the universe of problems that you're facing. Only then can you know which ones to prioritize. In the description is a link that will describe the process in more detail if you need it. Now, what you get from this assessment is a complete list of gaps, perfect for new employees who don't know exactly how things are done. And believe me, when you're new, everyone wants to tell you the good, the bad, and the ugly from their perspective. But it's all biased by their experience, and you don't know what that is or what's really going on. New leaders often see problems, but they're often paralyzed to make change because they can't see the universe of problems and they don't understand the unintended consequences of changes they make. Or worse, they aren't paralyzed and they make rookie mistakes that break something later that should have been obvious. The Predictive Customer Behavior Index eliminates the uncertainty around making process changes because you now know what will and won't break downstream. And don't just believe me. Here's what some of my clients had to say. Now, I'm not going to read these to you, but I'll give you some time to pause the video and read them yourself. I encourage you to reach out to my customers on LinkedIn and get a true understanding of what the process is like. Now, look, it might be obvious to you by now that I'm not a sales guy. I'm an operator just like you. But if you need to get a handle on the complexity and make an impact fast at your company, please reach out to me. Now, I'm not able to take every customer that needs my help, but if I accept you as a client, you'll get a money-back guarantee. That means if you aren't completely satisfied with the results and your return, I'll refund your money. Now, that's a risk-free deal any CEO would love. Go down in the description of this video and book that meeting today. And let's get started on delivering the full value of your customer success operation.